So the teaser trailer for the Rings of Power Season 2 has dropped. Let's see how it's looking.
Build me an army worthy of Mordor.
Okay, so today the first teaser trailer for the Season 2 of Rings of Power has finally dropped. And, well, as you can always expect with the Rings of Power, it is already dividing people quite a bit. Some people saying it looks a lot better than Season 1. It's going to be a big improvement. We're finally going to get a great show. And other people going, no, it's Amazon. It's the Rings of Power. We're stuck with it being awful. So let's have a little look on what we actually see in the teaser and see if we can come to some of our own conclusions rather than just jumping on a bandwagon. So the whole teaser trailer starts with seeing that end shot of Halbrand walking back into Mordor. That's a Season 1 shot, so that's nothing new. Then of course we get the logo and it comes back in with a voiceover saying an evil, ancient and powerful has returned, this being Durin. And we see the shot of Charlie Vickers as Halbrand looking all moody. Probably at this point thinking, I need to change how I look, but we'll get back to that in a moment. This is where we do get a shot of Durin finishing his talk, and then we get the first kind of interesting and different thing in this trailer. We see some weird alien sludge swamp monster type thing crawling up, appears what to be some rocks. Now, we have no idea at this point what this actually is, but my initial thoughts were basically that this could be one of the unnamed things under Moria, perhaps. Are they hinting by putting this next to Durin that there's going to be some issues in Khazad-dûm? Obviously, you know, we already had that teaser last season that the Balrog has awoken, but are there other things being woken up as well? Is this one of those mysterious, unnamed things that lives in the deepest, darkest depths that nobody really knows anything about? It's hard to know exactly what this might be, but I'd love to know what all of you think down in the comments. Moving on from this, we then get the shots of Galadriel, Elrond and some other fellow elves. And this is one of the first moments that made me be a bit less confident with how this may end up going, as we are less than 20 seconds into the trailer and we get a superhero Avengers shot circling around our heroes as they are preparing to fight what is likely to be orcs. Now, I understand this is the way cinema goes these days, but these are the kind of traits that Amazon tried to potentially use in the first season that made everything seem a bit meh. It's almost a bit over the top again, and hopefully it makes more sense in the context of the scene that's shown, but just these little things that they put in there, although they think it might look epic, it does lead me to think that perhaps this show isn't going to be as far away from Season 1 standards as perhaps it could be. Now that might be my negative hat on things, but I guess only time will tell. However, from here, we get a shot of two hands coming down, blood on them, and a load of butterflies or moths kind of swirling around, which to me appears as though this is going to be some kind of dream sequence again. We did get a few of these in Season 1, so my guess is there's going to be more in Season 2, all hinting at that fall of Númenor, the drowning, and basically the upheaval that happens with all its people. This is where our voiceover continues with "He worms his way inside your mind and the rest of him slithers in," as we cut to a wooded area where we see the roots of a tree going along some leaves and slowly approaching an elven figure. Now this one is wearing green, so in my head that looks like the kind of clothing that Celebrimbor was wearing from Season 1. And you get a very short glimpse of his face at the very beginning of the shot, and I think that is him, although I cannot be completely certain. But this is likely what kind of brings Celebrimbor to realise that more evil is happening again, because, you know, he hasn't realised it enough yet. And this is perhaps more things of nature going against it. The Mithril is failing as it does in the show, and this is another sign that things aren't going well. Especially when you cut it straight into orcs marching through the woods. It's showing evil, showing that evil is approaching, slithering through the trees, the roots and the orcs. You kind of get the idea. But then from here we go back to Celebrimbor again, this time in his tower, looking at what is so obviously meant to be a hint at the Eye of Sauron. There's obviously been some kind of explosion, the forge is at work, and then there's a little figure or something appearing in the middle, which very much represents the pupil. It's gonna be Halbrand. This is perhaps where something happens between the two of them. Very much the beginning of what is going to be Celebrimbor's horrific end. That's where it cuts to black, and we get that line, "I think he has been here among us all along." You know what? This is exactly what we got in Season 1, so it almost feels like they're going to try and rehash the story a bit in Season 2, as we now see Halbrand as Sauron with long blonde hair, elven ears, pretty much as he should have been from the get-go. Because the thing is, they've kept the same actor. This is still Charlie Vickers. So all they've done is slap a wig on him, give him some ears, and doing that thing of making you go, oh, nobody would recognize him now because of a slight change. And this is one of the things that bugs me. And it's kind of coming from a misstep of Season 1 that they're now trying to have to work around in Season 2. There was obviously some false casting rumours earlier on in the year, which turned out to be not true, and we're seeing it is actually Charlie Vickers as Anatar himself. But Sauron is supposed to be a shapeshifter. He can change his form. So I think having a different actor would have been good. Someone who did look fairer, did look more elven. And they've just put the wig and ears on Charlie Vickers here, which I'm not saying he's a bad actor, but it's just one of those things that takes you out of it a bit when it is so obviously the same actor playing a character who nobody else is going to recognize. Just one of those frustrating things. But this shot here is obviously very much him walking away from some mischief he has just caused, maybe the explosion, maybe he's done something much worse, but this is Sauron walking away. That's where we get our date, so we know the show is going to premiere on August 29th. And that's where we get more horse riding, because that wasn't memed enough from the first season, so of course we have to see Galadriel riding a horse again. And it's kind of one of those things, it's a nothing shot, but when it was kind of attacked so much in Season 1, the fact they're putting a shot like this in the Season 2 teaser maybe makes me feel that they're not trying to steer away from the worst parts or the less well-received parts as much as maybe I'd hope they would. But again, it's also maybe a bit of nothing. This is where we then see a woman underwater with a gigantic sea creature underneath. Now, it looks like she could be being held down as though this is some kind of sacrifice, but I very much believe this is actually a dream sequence again. I think this is once again hinting at the drowning of Numenor. This is what Miriel is going to keep dreaming of. She's going to keep getting these premonitions of this thing happening. And I think this is just another instance of her basically getting that feeling of being underwater, creatures attacking, and that the end is closing in. And then once again, we get some more voiceover, with this time as seeing Disa, older Durin, and a bit of stone collapsing onto a bridge within Khazad-dûm. Now this is obviously also hinting again at the beginning of the fall of this great realm. After this, we get more quick shots of Elendil trying to force his way through a crowd but being held back, Galadriel screaming at something, an orc licking a knife, which is what it is. And then we get more shots of the rings, which also includes Durin receiving a ring, most likely meaning that this is one of the dwarven rings that he is being offered by Sauron, or at least one of his messengers. Perhaps this is where he's seeing his realm start to collapse, and someone turns up and says, I can save this if you take these rings, and it will help you rebuild everything. Who knows, but it's very much showing that the Rings of Power is going to have some Rings of Power in it. And then from there, we get Arondir back doing his flips. He jumps over this cart wagon looking thing and appears up with Isildur just behind him. Now, of course, they tease that Isildur might be dead in Season 1, which, if you don't know the lore already, is an absolutely fine thing to do, but for any of us who know anything about it, we know he was never going to die, and now that we see he teams up with Arondir, who has probably saved him from where we thought we'd lost him earlier. And then we are back to Numenor, where we see an eagle landing at the top of the city with Ar-Pharazôn drawing his sword. Now, whether Ar-Pharazôn actually rode in on this eagle or he was given a speech and the eagle appeared behind him, we're not quite sure. But it's very much showing that he is gaining more power, he is looking more like royalty at this point in a way, and perhaps this is a sign that they're going to try and attack the Undying Lands. Although I don't feel the eagle should be involved if that is what they're trying to do. Here we get some more quick shots of Theo, Isildur, and then the siege. Now, the siege, I'm very interested on. They said there's going to be a whole 2-episode arc about one great battle, so I'm assuming it'll come from this. But one of the slightly more negative parts is we see more of Theo, who's not one of those faint lights in a dim Season 1. I'm not sure how much of a role he's really going to have to play, but all it is really doing is confirming that he will be in the season. And now, after these shots of the siege, we get our first look at New Adar. He's looking a little bit worse for wear, drawing his sword. You could pretty much tell he's leading the siege at this point. He is angry and he wants some revenge. And now we've gotten a fair way through the trailer with no sign of Harfoots or any of that story, but we do now get our first look at the wizard in what is almost definitely Rhûn, or at least somewhere around that area. he's throwing his stick into the ground next to what looks like a well. So in my head, that is just saying he is going to be magicking up some water for these people in the desert when things are running dry. And from there we get a shot of a sandstorm. You can't tell who's in it. This might actually be one of the Harfoots clinging on in the sandstorms as they're trying to travel through it, or this could be completely unrelated to them and just something else. It happens so fast we don't really know. Now we're back to the badass Galadriel firing 2 flaming arrows with an explosion, and then we cut to Elrond in armor raising his sword ready to lead a charge on horseback. All of these things are kind of happening so fast that there's not too much to get from them. It's just showing there's more production value, there's a bit more practical stuff, but we're going to have to wait and see if it makes sense in what's going on. However, now we are back to Celebrimbor throwing rings into a fire. Now, whether these are rings he believes to be tainted by Sauron, so he's trying to destroy them all or not, I'm not sure, but he very much looks worse for wear. Whether that's been from beaten up or an explosion, we're not quite sure, because this is where it then cuts to Halbrand as Sauron, or Anatar, being surrounded by a group of elves in the ruins of what is most likely been an explosion in the forge. Here we get the voiceover of "He is Sauron" with a nice little smirk from Halbrand. Now, if they'd done this look from day one, I think it could have been alright, but the fact we saw him all that time as Halbrand in the first place, I'm really unsure where to sit on this. However, we must quickly go to the shot of Celebrimbor as they're walking in, as this shot very much looks like he has lost his hand. So I'm not sure exactly what was going on, but you can almost guarantee that it is Anatar who has done this. He's tried to escape, been caught by these elves, and then he's going to make his escape from there. But Celebrimbor very much seems like he's been put through an horrific ordeal, most likely by the hands of Anatar. This is where we get Sauron flicking his hands and then making it look like he turns an entire region to snow. I've seen a lot of people already saying that they believe this could be Angmar and the beginning of it, more likely, specifically, Khand Dûm. However, this doesn't actually come about until the Third Age, so I can't see this be the case. Probably just somewhere up north, that it could be in the more snowy regions. I'm just not confident on exactly where this place is at this time. But if you have any ideas on this, please let me know down in the comments below. And that's where the teaser trailer for the Rings of Power ends. I don't feel like we had too much stuff in that, not too much of a giveaway. We had no signs of any Harfoots, there was no Bronwyn, there was no sign of Círdan or Celeborn, unless they were in the background somewhere. So realistically, it was just a lot of flashy stuff with maybe not too much substance. Maybe when the show's out, we'll get a bit more of an idea and there was actually some bigger things in this, but in the context of what they showed, it's not giving anything obvious away. Overall, it's kind of just doing what a teaser trailer should do. The fall of Eregion will be a great thing to see. They have very much bigged up this 2-episode battle scene that they're going to have as another one of these biggest battles ever seen on TV. I just hope that there's more substance to it than just a load of action, and there's a reason it needs to be 2 episodes long and not just to have something to boast about. I feel like this teaser could be seen as potentially a step in the right direction for Amazon, although I am by no means sold on it yet. One of the major plot points with it all is very much how Halbrand has now turned into Sauron and he's hidden himself back in the same people that he'd already hidden himself within. All he's done is put on a wig and had some ears. Now, I don't understand why they didn't just do this kind of thing from the beginning, as again, like I mentioned earlier, just having the same actor with a slightly different look really doesn't change an awful lot, and it feels a bit stupid that these high and almighty, really experienced peoples in the elves would not notice it was him. I feel like if they just cast someone different who looked a bit more elven, it would have been closer to the lore and probably be more well accepted than what they're doing here. It may well work out in the end, we don't know yet, but judging by season 1, we can't hold too much hope that they're really going to pull through with these things. I will admit at the end of this, I'm by no means more excited for season 2 yet. I'm definitely going to watch it all, review it all, break stuff down for you guys, so if you don't want to watch it, you can at least know what's going on. But I will be waiting to see what comes out next. When there's a full trailer, not just a teaser, we might get more of an idea and a better understanding on where they're going with things, whether it's going to be in a positive way or just more of the same as season 1. But realistically, at this point, with everything we've just been given, we've just got to give it more time and wait and see. Although I will admit, the fact they have been silent up until this does not fill me with confidence either. But that is where I will leave it for today. I don't feel like we need to break stuff down too much, go into too much depth over things that are probably going to become apparent far more easily later on. But with that, I would love to know from all of you, what are your thoughts on this official teaser trailer? Are you feeling more positive? Are you feeling worse? Or is it just as good or as bad as you were expecting at this stage? Season 1 wasn't the greatest. I really hope they can bring it back. I want a good show, but they haven't done enough to sway me in any other direction just yet. So with that, thank you if you have managed to reach the end of this video with me today. I'm sorry if it was a little bit rambly. I've been doing this on the fly as an initial reaction, so I hope it's okay with you all, and I would really love to hear what you all think. So with that, I will see you next time.